With reaction from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, editor-in-chief of Life Zet, nationally syndicated radio host, Fox News contributor Laura Ingraham. All right, Jay, legal side, is all of this legal?
Well, no. I mean, the disclosure of tax return information or the tax return itself from, for instance, an IRS source is a violation of not only the criminal code 7213, but also is a direct violation of the Internal Revenue Manual. I was a lawyer with the Office of Chief Counsel for the Internal Revenue Service. The IRS was our client, and we were instructed and had to sign documents that you could not disclose taxpayer information. So the release of taxpayer information here, Donald Trump's taxpayer information, if it came from the IRS or somebody that was formerly with the IRS, well, that is a felony.
Well, I guess it could have come from a bank, but wouldn't that be illegal, too, if somebody's releasing somebody's taxes?
So, sure, if they got it from a source and then released it knowing that, that would be a violation as well. And
would it be a violation by NBC, or would it be a violation of the person that leaked it?
So I looked at that, Sean, because what NBC would assert, and Rachel Maddow did assert this, that this was protected by the First Amendment. But it depends upon the way in which, if it was solicited, for instance, by the reporter, that is not protected speech. So I think this First Amendment argument also misses the point.
Listen, I may surprise you. I give her the benefit of the doubt. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that she has a right to report it. And wherever
absolutely.
Laura's rolling her eyes, and when Laura rolls her eyes, that's bad for me. Go ahead.
Sean, first of all, if Donald Trump paid what was the equivalent, I guess, of about 25% in federal taxes, federal income taxes, I think he needs a better tax attorney. I mean, why is that? I mean, if I were Trump, I wouldn't be worried about this at all. I mean, so he depreciated his assets. He probably had some losses counted against income. This is all done according to the tax law. Big deal. But Jay's right. There's a federal criminal violation here. Clearly, if this was done by the IRS, clearly if this was done by some tax preparer or legal entity that helped Trump with his taxes. But it sounds and it seems more like this is someone burrowed into the federal bureaucracy who's trying to make hay of this and trying to capture another news cycle. But I don't think it looks bad for Trump at all. What's the story? Everyone's making a big deal of this. Like 25% in federal taxes? That's a lot.
Yeah, Jay?
The story here is not that Donald Trump paid a lot of taxes, which he did. So that's not the story. And I agree with Laura. I mean, tax planning, he was taking advantage of existing legal doctrine, so that's no big deal. The story, though, is if this came from, and it's likely that it came from a source within the IRS or an IRS leaking it to someone else, that is a crime. And this goes back to something we've been talking about a lot. Inside these agencies are these individuals that are so opposed to anything this president does that they would go to this extent to violate the law. And should we be shocked? I mean, I handled the cases where the IRS targeted conservative organizations, and I always said that it wasn't just Lois Lerner. Yeah. All
right, the Obamas paid a 19% effective tax rate in 2015. You know, not 17 years, not 10, 11 years ago. But here's my point. There's a bigger issue here because it's almost weekly now that the deep state, Obama holdovers, they're out there sabotaging. And what it's doing is, like, we'll have Sarah Carter on later tonight, Laura Ingraham. Sarah Carter said that there was a FISA warrant in October. It wasn't against Trump. That when there was any issues that were raised about Trump, they were debunked. But night after night since November 8th, this false narrative keeps getting reported. And this is what they'd have you believe at NBC tonight. That Donald Trump sold the house to a Russian oligarch in 2005. He made a big profit. They knew in Russia that he'd be president in 2016, he'd be elected. And that somehow that he was buying influence way back then just in case he became president. There's something really twisted and sick that they call themselves a news organization here.
Yeah, the amazing thing, Sean and Jay, is that these are the same folks who are always rushing to conclude that conservatives and conservative activists are conspiracy theorists and total nutbags. But I would argue that they're the real fanatics. The American people have moved on from all of these fake controversies. They're trying to figure out, okay, am I going to get the health care that I can afford? Will the country start working again? Will the government start governing again? And meanwhile, the Democrats are always on yesterday's storyline that's invariably concocted, invariably picked up from dribs and drabs of George Soros-funded media organizations that pose as media organizations. But there's no there. And yet they have to keep beating the drum. Otherwise, what do? They talk about how great, our foreign policy was under Obama, or how Hillary had all the answers. I mean, we know Russia got more powerful over the last 8 years of Barack Obama. We know Russia got uranium interests in the United States. We know the reset didn't work. We know that Hillary's brother was involved in all those weird hazelnut deals in the former Soviet republic. So all this stuff was happening. They have no argument, so they have to go back to this nonsense.
Yep.
And I think the American people are very smart about what's happening. I think Newt Gingrich is right about this. They're very smart and very savvy.
I got to take a break, but I will tell you there is a danger here to all of this. I mean, the breathless, hysterical reporting every single morning, noon and night on this network it's actually, there's a danger here that we've got to explore. We'll get back into the legal angle. We'll have more with Laura Ingraham, Jason.